person, Dr. Pan CHIA Ma'am of Taylor's University, Malaysia, of our special address on managing physiological emotions and stress in the workplace during cruise time. Once again, I welcome all for day 2 session of International Webinar.
I proudly introduce our chief guest, Ms. Pang. She is currently working as a lecturer and stream coordinator for the Bachelor of Psychology program at Taylor's University. Her areas of research interest include gender and media representation and personality development. Ingenious ideas and innovative solutions coupled with her expertise in the field of psychology enable her and as an effective trainer as well. She has conducted multiple training and workshops for in-campus and off-campus community, particularly in the area of personality development. We proudly welcome you, ma'am. Kindly start the session, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to check if everyone can hear me. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Aniruddha. So just to start off my session, I hope you all can hear me, is on managing the psychological or also emotions and stress in the workplace during the crisis time. So before I start, like how Prof. Dr. Aruna introduced me, I like to study this topic and this area because it's my field of interest. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me at the end of this session or maybe in between this session. Okay, so today I am going to talk about the attitudes towards your workplace. And we're going to talk briefly through what is stress. And we are also going to talk about how to manage stress and crisis. And me and a few clinical psychologists have worked on this thing that we have shared with working with other people. We call it REST. And after that, for any questions and answer session, I would be glad to answer. So what is psychological and stress? So psychological emotional, the psychology of it is that we look into the mental and emotional of the person. So here are some, what I like to do in my PowerPoint presentation is like I like to use cartoons and comic. And I will tell you the reason why my presentations are always like to use a little bit of cartoon. Okay, so the first thing of all, for most of you here, I would assume that most of you here are actually have a workplace. You all are working. So very important is to understand what is your attitude to work, towards the workplace and what happens during a crisis time. So in psychology, we learn the term attitude is that we look into the ABC. I call it the ABC when I teach my students or when I give my presentation. A stands for affective, is how you feel about your workplace. B is behavioral, is how you act and behave at your workplace. C is cognitive, is how you think about your workplace. And why is this very important is because if your attitude towards your workplace is more positive, that means you feel more happy getting up in the morning and going to work, which is getting up in the morning, going to work is your action, and what you think does impact on the psychological well-being and how you view the workplace. And on top of that, what happens during a crisis time? During a crisis time, things change a lot, especially at workplace and at home. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on the workplace. So let's identify, right? As humans, whether you or I, okay, you or me, it's very important for us to identify what is within my control and what is not within my control. Because as us human beings, right, as a psychologist, when I study human behavior, I notice that we all want to be in control. But in reality, we are not in control a lot of things. So let us identify what is within my control. In what I can control is how I think, how I act, or how I behave, and I also can control how I feel. Okay, the word feeling, right? Sometimes we can't be in control. We want to think that we are able to control our feelings, but when I say control your feeling, is basically is acknowledging your feelings. So what is not in your control? So what is not within your control is what other people think of you. What is not within your control is how people act or feel about you. What you can't control is the crisis that is happening right now, which is COVID-19 or any other stuff. It's a lot of things are not within our control. What is also not within your control is also your workplace environment. Okay, so we are being put at a place. So from a psychological point of view, how do you manage what you can be in control and what is not within your control? And this is very important because what I want to do is asking you to look at from a different perspective. Because once you identify what you can control, right, then you know what you can do. Because believe me, as human, right, we want to be in control. Okay, so you can only control yourself in many, many things. Okay, in addition to that, right, when we talk about what we can't control, we also can't control what happens at home. So now we are left with ourselves, our feelings, our thoughts, and our action. So it is how you feel valid, is how you think is valid, and how you act. All right. So for this main whole webinar is to help you all to think at a higher level. Is to reframe your thoughts, to reframe your mind when it comes to a crisis. So what is stress? So during a crisis, right, whether you like it or not, we are going to be stressed. Okay, we're going to be stressed in so many ways. So let me help you to identify some of the physiological signs of stress. When you are stressed, the possible signs are your heart will beat very fast, you'll be very moody. For some of you, especially women, you will have stomach upset where you lose appetite. For some of us, we bite our nails because we are nervous, we are stressful, or you fall easily sick, therefore you're unwell. Another thing you would notice, there will be some pains at parts of your body, maybe your shoulder or your back. You're easily tired. You have muscle tension. You might even have more headaches, okay, or a sore shoulder. So all these are the physical signs of stress. Another possible symptoms that when you're going through stress is that you procrastinate. You are not motivated to do other things. For some of us, is that you're not able to sleep at night because you're worried. You're worried about what happens at the workplace. What can I do during this crisis? So when you're worried, some of us struggle to sleep. And I will share some tips on how to slower your heartbeat and how to give yourself a good night. Try your best to give you a good night's sleep later on this presentation. You might not feel like socializing. Again, loss of appetite. Or maybe for some of us, because you're so stressed, you take a bucket of ice cream and you just, eat a lot of ice cream because you're feeling very stressed. So eating too much can be a possible sign. Short-tempered, meaning that you're very easily angry or easily very nervous. Or you might be drinking more alcohol or smoking more if you're stressed. So these are the possible signs. So for us, right, as even you guys, I'm sure that when you see this kind of symptoms, you can identify whether or not someone is experiencing stress. So to continue a little bit, what are stress is that some people, right, they become very unorganized when they are stressed. So when they become unorganized, right, in a workplace, right, it actually does affect, I am not sure which department you're from, But I do know that if, let's say, one department is unorganized, it affects the other groups, other department. So it's a ripple effect. It's not good for a corporation. So another sign that when people are stressed is that they're not focused at all, or not maybe at all, but not focused most of the time. Frequently at the age, meaning that they are either easily anxious or easily angry, or they are very pessimistic, they're very negative. Anything that comes out from their mouth is they're very negative. Another sign of when someone is going through a lot of stress is that they also can be very forgetful. Okay, and they can't focus. They don't feel like getting up from bed or go to work, right? Or easily agitated. So there are many, many signs. It does not mean that it's a checklist that you need to tick all of it, then it's a sign of stress. Sometimes it's just a few of this. So you identify. So where does actually stress come from? It can be your physical health. During this crisis, for some people, right, their mental does not just come from physical health. It comes from you, your own mind, your mindset. Whether you have something like self-expectation, expectation that, I need to do better, I need to be able to provide for my family. So in psychology, in my field, I always also look into the roles that people play. So like, for example, myself, I am not only a lecturer, I am also a mom, I am a wife, I am someone's daughter. So when you have a lot of expectation, when you have a lot of roles, and every role we feel that we need to play societal expectation. So your mindset is very important. So if you have any questions about mindset or psychological well-being, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll try my best to answer every one of you. And stress also, other than the physical health and mindset that you have, stress can also come from your environment. So since today's topic, we're talking about workplace, stress can come from your colleagues. Stress can come from your superiors. Stress, for those of you academicians here today, stress can come from your students. And another thing is, these are the workplace, but your social life, another side of your personal life, stress can also come from your family, your friends, can also be a community thing, all right? But one thing for sure, that stress is unavoidable. And stress can come in various levels. Are all stress bad? The answer is no. Not all stress are bad. Some stress are good because it pushes you your limit a little bit. It makes you stronger. So not all stress are bad, but stress definitely are unavoidable and comes in many, many various levels. So what to do or what to do? How to manage my stress, and especially at this crisis. So I am going to put a little bit of this where I use a lot in teaching my students when it comes to crisis, not just workplace, but in life. Stiff and scurry. And then there are other two characters. And basically, right, who is more successful, to show the comparison that who moved my cheese, right? The more successful one are the mice. And why are they more successful in life is because they're simplistic thinkers. They don't think too much. They are aware of changes that in their surrounding. So when a crisis happens and you're mindful and you're aware of it, you're able to have higher resilience. And one thing in psychology, right, I'm not sure if you heard this term, but I'm going to share it today, is that we talk about grit, G-R-I-T. You need to be gritty in this situation in order to be successful in life. We need to learn that failure is okay. So back to this one is that grit is one of those things that if you're more resilient, right, you're able to adapt to changes. You're more adaptable to crisis because you are ready to take on the challenge that comes to you. So in this book, we also talk about when the environment change, you change with it. And a lot of times, whether it's in India or in Malaysia, a lot of times we can't control what happens. How many of us predicted that we are going to be in a lockdown, so-called lockdown, or how many of us predicted that COVID-19 would have so much impact in our life? We don't. But if you go along with change and adapt to it and learn how to overcome it, then you are more resilient. And then, in other words, in psychology, we also said that you have more grit, you're more gritty. So in this book, right, we talk about stiff and scurry. Stiff and scurry, right, they are very prompt. They don't overanalyze. So in the story is that they quickly search for new cheese. New cheese meaning that solution to the issue. They are very alert and notice change. And for us, right, when we notice there will be changes, we are alert about it. It helps us to anticipate the crisis, anticipate what might happen. For those of you who study engineering or economy, we are able to use, how to say, prediction, like correlations, analysis, and then we can predict something. And the other thing is we are very focused. So instead of blaming the environment, things that you are not in control, if you focus on finding solution, we are able to adapt to the change or crisis that's happening. So as a result, right, Stiff and Scurry, these two characters in the book, Who Moved My Cheese, they are not stressed, overly stressed, they are cheerful. They're able to adapt accordingly, no time wastage. They are prompt, up to date on what is going on and what can I do to make the situation better for myself and for my colleagues or people around me. So people like this, right, are more resilient. And this is something that all of us are learning to build. And I think I'm recommending this as an expert. Please try. Because trust me, when you're able to accept changes that happens in our life, it's easier for us to move forward. So the moral of the story of this Who Moved My Cheese is that the sooner or later, each of us will experience change in our life. And when we talk about change or crisis, it can be moving from one job to another job. It could be from single and you're getting married. And all of us here, right, we deal things in a very different ways. So I'm going to share a few tips later on in this PowerPoint presentation so that we can you can see what fits you well. So the one who move on and have a chance to find new source of comfort, while those who remain behind are condemned to failure. This is part of the story. So basically is if you be positive and pick yourself out, okay, there's a crisis, what can I do to resolve this? When you move on, you find easier way of finding comfort in that crisis. So if you are constantly being negative in your state of mind that you're very upset and you cry because crisis happened and you do not know what to do, those is sort of cannot accept changes. All right, so workplace in crisis time. This might not applicable to everyone, but this is what I've collected over the years when I'm studying human behavior at workplace or in schools. At workplace, right, there will be people gossip. Some of you might heard of it, some of you might not. And for academicians, we have research. And sometimes when we want to conduct research and at crisis, right, sometimes we can't even conduct research. We have to modify our research during a crisis time. At workplace, there are expectations from your superiors. How do you meet expectation? How do you meet your superior's expectation or your company's expectations? For those of you academician, during the crisis time, we try our best to give our best to our students, teaching our students, giving consultation for our students. And at workplace also, there are also work politics. A lot of these things sometimes is not within our control. Maybe a change of leadership in the corporate or in the workplace. that also would change the dynamic of how we function as a organization. And at this crisis time, this might not be applicable to you, but in some countries where I have contacts in the US, Australia, and Canada, especially Canada, some of them are going through budget cuts. Budget cuts might impact on your salary. So when budget cut happens, to us, it's a workplace crisis. What if it's also a natural disaster? Would you consider COVID-19 as a natural disaster? This one I refer here is to things like recently there are news like maybe a tornado heading towards your way, or raining, or flood, that kind of stuff. The last one, protesters, right, is more of for certain universities or certain workplace, they might have protesters, and it becomes a crisis for certain educational institutions, or even like other workplace or factories, or depending. All right. So here are some tips on how to handle or manage stress at workplace. And another thing I want to point out, why is this so important, is that in life, right, I believe that it's very important to take care of yourself. And studies has found that people who are happy, not just happy, but have good connection with other people, tend to live a longer life. And this study has been done. And this is what my clinical psychologist in Malaysia has shared. And they came up with this, and I think it's amazing. And therefore, I'm going to share it with you today because I support this idea. So they call it rest. So in any form of conflict or crisis at work, rest means you take a rest, you express yourself, self-talk, and take a break. So let's try one breathing exercise. May I have every one of you here to close your eyes. Just be very relaxed. And what I want you to do is, let's all breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And then hold, breathe out. Okay, so the normal practice I give my students or my clients when we are doing this rest breathing exercise, if you breathe in, take 3 seconds, breathe in. And I want you to hold on as long as you can for about, let's say, 4 to 5 seconds. Okay, hold on. And then I want you to breathe out. Take about 3 or 4 seconds and then you breathe out. What this does is that it actually helps oxygen to go into your body. And by you holding it, it will actually, it will actually help you to force the oxygen into your brain. All right? Oops, sorry. Sorry, my mic fell. So what happens is that when you having trouble sleeping at night, and if you do this breathing exercise, it actually lowers down your heart rate a little bit. So when I have people who having a panic attack or they're having trouble sleeping, I would highly recommend doing this breathing exercise. So breathe in about 3 to 4 seconds. Hold on for about 4 to 5 seconds or 3 seconds, as long as you can, and you breathe out. Do that a few times. Trust me, I can guarantee you this, that you feel a lot calmer, you feel slightly less stressed, and if you're having trouble sleeping, this is the best way to ensure more oxygen in your system, in your body system, and it will calm your heart rate, and it's easier for you to sleep. Another method here is that taking a break by stretching. So you can stretch, as you know, your arms or even your leg, and it does help at workplace, especially when you are looking at your laptop for a long period of time, or having a long meeting, just give yourself a long stretch, a good stretch. Okay. The other one is you could do meditation to rest. If you know how to do meditation, there are some. I'm sure there are a few tips on YouTube or other videos that you can do meditation. And also, resting allows you to be more mindful on what is going on in the environment. It helps you to be mindful of what's happening around you and what's happening within you. When I say within you, is again what you think, how you feel, and how you act. It's very important you're able to express. So that's why it's very important for you to have someone that you could talk to, maybe a close colleague at work, or maybe a best friend or your superior, to talk about any issues that you have, especially during a crisis time or any change that's going on at your workplace. So you can talk about it. Or another way for some of us, especially men, because I as mentioned by Prof. Dr. Adruha, that I do study gender, and I noticed that men doesn't like to talk so much. So women, we women love to talk. So if this is your method of expressing yourself, women, go ahead and talk to your best friend about it or talk to your colleague about it. Men, however, most men like to do sports, maybe play football, or maybe doing art, listening to music or dance, or maybe a workout. And I just want to point out that exercise is very good to express your frustration during a crisis moment, because when you exercise, I call it the positive hormones, which is such as your endorphin and serotonin, will start pumping up, and you will be less stressed by doing that. Another way to express yourself is through prayers. I believe not everyone here are religious, so I'm sharing this in the sense of sometimes when you pray, it releases the stress a little bit. It helps you to express yourself in prayers. So sometimes if you're having a crisis at work or even at home, sometimes it's nice to go to a temple or say your prayers at home, because it does help to decrease your stress level. This is also the part where I want to talk again, touch base on reframing your mind. When crises happen, we get very stressed out, and a lot of times we blame ourselves. Okay, so it's very important you try to understand where your feelings are coming from. Okay, do not self-blame so much, and because human behavior, right, it's that we are all fault finders. All of us, our brain is programmed in a way I would believe that it's easy for us to find fault. So let's say, for example, like if let's use a shopping mall, for example. What is so great about this shopping mall? Okay, shopping mall A. It's probably very hard for you to find fault. But if I ask you, what could the shopping mall have done better, or give me a fault that the shopping mall failed to do, it's easy for us to find fault. If you try to ask yourself a question, you will notice that we as human behavior, we are able to find fault easier than finding the good, because we're fault finders. Most of us are fault finders. So therefore, you need to self-talk on positive encouragement. Instead of punishing yourself, saying that, I should have been a better colleague, I should have put in more effort in doing the research or whatsoever. Maybe reframe your mind and give yourself a positive encouragement, such as, well done. I think I did well in this, or, I did good in this. Or if, let's say, self-talk doesn't work, talk to somebody who tends to give you more positive thoughts. So here, right, is basically to reframe your mind. Because if you're negative all the time in your head, your energy as a person would also be very low. So you need to reframe your mind a little bit in by seeing that, okay, let's say, for example, I screw up. For example, if I screw up something at work and I acknowledge that it was a human mistake, I did not mean it, I acknowledge and I take full responsibility of my mistake because I'm human, right? So once you have done that, and I tell myself, okay, I've taken full responsibility of the mistake, and then it's time to move on. And I'll do better the next time. Because please remember, right, one thing that we as humans keep forgetting is that we are all humans. No matter what age you are, whether you are a professor or a doctor or maybe a master student here or just a student, in life, we will always have little mistakes that we make. But that is life, because life is supposed to teach. We are supposed to learn from life in how to improve ourselves um, every situation. So it's very important that you reframe your mind if you want to improve yourself. The last thing is take a break. I'm not sure how many of you here are workaholic. I call it workaholic because we love our job sometimes so much that we work overtime. It's very important for you to take a break and reflect. Be aware of your body. Some exercise I like to do, working with clients over many, many years, is to be aware, rest, and see if there's any aches or discomfort around your body. Reason is because sometimes your body always trying to signal you if you're unwell. Mindfulness gives you some sense of mindfulness. Meditation does help. If you're having a long day, for some of us, like for myself, I like a cup of warm tea. All right. There's something about warm drinks, right? It enlarge, how to say, the breathing passage. So, like it enlarge your breathing passage and it allows more oxygen to go into your body. So when you drink a warm drink, it comforts you. So that's why if you see people having a bad day or having a trauma or having going through a crisis, you will see in TV shows that they give them a warm drink because the warm drinks will help you to calm yourself down. Another way of taking a break is appreciate the beauty of your environment. Maybe walk around campus or your workplace. Appreciate the beauty that nature gives. Another way of taking a break is reward yourself. I'm a woman, so sometimes when I have a very stressful and tiring week, I like to go to the hair salon and get a hair wash. For some girls, maybe you like to get your nails done. For guys, maybe you want to reward yourself by playing video games. So all of us have different ways of taking a break and taking care of ourselves. All right, so I'm open to any questions. If there's any questions.
Any questions from participant side?
Yes, any questions from participants?
Hello, good morning, ma'am.
Hello, good morning.
I want to ask one question
Sure.
that is related to food and stress. So, what we
Yes.
eat daily, that food is not a pure food, what we are getting, vegetables and all, in anything that has relation on stress.
So the question is whether or not food would be in relation to stress.
Yes,
Okay.
that. uh, yes, yes.
Uh, okay. So yes, food does some form of relation to stress. There is also a study, not a study lah. There are studies done that food can relate to stress. It depends on what kind of food are you referring to?
Sorry, ma'am.
What food are you referring to? Is it like day-to-day food or?
Day-to-day food. I want to ask day-to-day food and vegetables, particularly vegetables what we that are not pure, na hybrid. That also is changing our body impact and all that. That has any relation to stress? I wanted to know.
Okay, can food impact health stress? The answer is yes, because health, whatever food that you are consuming, does have an impact on your health. So when your health deteriorates or not well, then you will have some form of stress. However, food also can give you comfort a lot. It gives you a lot of psychological comfort in the sense of, for example, if you're having a bad day, for some people, nothing beats grandma's curry, for example. Like for myself, to me, food sometimes give you comfort, especially when you're sick. So sometimes comfort food, that's why comfort food plays a huge role in your psychological mental health. So yes, it does have an impact.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your question.
Any other questions? Participants, you can ask questions. No question from participant side? Any questions from participant side?
Hello,
Yes,
Yes, sir,
hello.
please.
ma'am. Very good morning.
Good morning.
Very good afternoon here.
Good morning, sir.
I just want to ask that how to get rid of the anxiety. Although whatever measures you are telling, I have adopted that. But again, after some time, I start feeling anxiety. That is why my job many times gets hampered. So how can get rid of the anxiety? Time and again, I'm facing this problem.
Okay, thank you for your question. There is no one formula where you can do one thing and you have no more anxiety. It also depends because anxiety has a spectrum. Spectrum meaning depending on your level of anxiety. So if your anxiety is leaning towards severe, then it's very important that you are very mindful when that anxiety happens. What do you need to do to calm yourself down? Again, everyone has different coping mechanism. So you need to check whether or not your anxiety level, if let's say it is a spectrum, whether is it mild or very anxious, because every situation will put you in a different level of anxiety. So a lot of time when anxiety happen, your heart will start racing a lot. And sometimes we can't even function because we are very stressed. We have high anxiety. So you need to take a break. And a lot of times is give yourself permission to say, okay, I need to stop working for a while, as in like take a break from whatever you're doing. I am going to do a bit of breathing exercise, which only takes you about 5 minutes. And I'm going to reward myself a cup of tea because I need to calm down. So self-care is very important. So it does not end very fast. So anxiety comes in, again, like I mentioned, different spectrum. And you also need to identify what triggers that anxiety. So we can have a long conversation on this. So because it really depends what really triggers your anxiety.
You mean to that I should know what are the reasons of anxiety?
This also will help you. So if you know that you get high anxiety when expectations are not met, or maybe you get anxiety when you have a deadline but you're not able to meet that deadline. So
This is the very true. When
yeah,
we are not able to meet the deadline, then many times this anxiety occurs.
yeah. So what happens when you have the anxiety? Do you blame yourself or do you blame other people? And because this is in your mind. So in your mind, if you tell yourself that, oh, I should have done this, I should have spent more time at work so I can get this done. So when you start blaming yourself, it does not help you to function. So if you can put yourself level as calm, then you can rethink or identify a solution on how to fix it. So it's not easy lah. So you need to identify first on what really triggers your high anxiety. And once you are aware how it triggers, so the next round when this comes again or something similar comes again, you're mindful, okay, I'm going to get high anxiety because this is not done. And then what can you do to reduce the anxiety?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, one question from participant side in chat box from Julie,
Okay.
ma'am. How can
Yes.
I come out from the stress which is given by my colleague every day? This is a question from participant side. The questioner is Julie.
Okay. Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
How can I come out from the stress which is given by my colleague?
Julie, thank you for your question. You can't really come out from the stress. Stress will always be there. So how you absorb or because the more you fight stress, the more it's going to hit you strong. The more you don't acknowledge that stress is coming, it's not good. So some colleagues do able to give you stress because maybe your colleagues are very negative, or maybe your colleagues always put you down. I'm not sure what kind of stress you have, but how to escape is honestly the reason why it affects us as human is because we care about them. We care about what's going on. A lot of us want to make everyone happy here. We are people pleasers here. We do not want to offend anyone. So because of that, sometimes we, in English saying, we make ourselves a doormat. I know this sounds really bad, but it's like the expression of being a doormat that people step on us. So whatever stress that you feel that is given by your environment, you need to learn the process and accept it like, okay, I can't control. You must remember, let's go back to my PowerPoint slides. You must remember that whatever your colleague does or says, you are not in control. You can only control yourself. So how your colleagues talk to you or whatsoever, please get a, you need to try to, how to say, process in your own ways. Why whatever they're doing or saying matters to me. So try to let it go. I hope that helps to answer.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
This is Dr. Lata. Ma'am, very
Yes,
nice,
Dr. Lata.
very nice session.
Thank
Ma'am,
you, Dr. Lata.
my boss, I would call, gives a lot of stress, as you said, whenever there is a target time.
Yes.
So I understand that the work cannot be completed, but I cannot say no to her also. And I, extend my sleeping hours. So it's taking a toll on my health. How do I handle this? Do I have a dialogue with her?
I need more information, but yes, having a dialogue with her, if you're comfortable, that would be one option, having a dialogue. And also is that you might need to have a me time. In psychology, when we talk to counselors or therapists, right, we always remind each another to have this thing called the me time, where you do things to take care of yourself. So during this me time, we do not think of work, we do not think of house chores, we just either read a book or do something that makes us happy, maybe a long shower. Yeah, another technique that I have find it very useful is to sing in the shower.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, so because a lot of times as women, because again I study gender, as women, right, we are mothers, we are wives, and we are also a colleague. We work very hard at our workplace. So the only me time we have is to, in a shower, because we all need to shower, right? So
Yes.
at the shower, hot shower or whatever shower that you, or bathtub, sing. Because when there's warm shower and you sing, right, it opens up the passageway in your esophagus, your throat, and it
Okay.
actually releases stress and put in more oxygen into your body. So that is the most simplest way. But as for your boss, right, I do understand sometimes bosses or superiors give us deadline and we are stressed. But if it's taking a toll, remember when it takes a toll on your health, you're not able to give 100% to your work anymore.
Mm.
So from management point of view is that you are not contributing, you are not performing.
Mm.
But in the end of the day, then you are in trouble because you are not performing. I'm sure everyone here wants to perform
Yes.
now for their. So if they can, if they are willing to listen to you and say that, look, I am not able to meet this deadline because da da da, and I hope they do listen to you.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
another
Yes.
question from participant side. Question
Yes.
is from Jyoti Rai Chaudhary. The
Yes.
question is, I am very much stressed due to the lockdown of present situation. How to reduce it?
How to reduce what?
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
How to reduce?
How to reduce the stress in the lockdown situation?
How to do things that makes you happy. Find things that you can do to make yourself happy. Lockdown situation for most of us, because I'm currently doing a study on the human behavior and the mental health during a lockdown. It's a current study right now. We just finished collecting data, and actually a lot of people are feeling very stressed. And how we can be kind to ourselves is do something that we like. um, my participant had shared that doing something that they like or doing things, not overthinking. So in any situation, right, the philosophy of things is always that the glass is always half full or half empty. So if you see the glass as half full, that means you think positively. But if you always see the glass as half empty, then you will always see the negative side or the pessimistic mindset. So to reduce your stress during the lockdown, you really need to identify whether my feelings are valid. If it impacts if the lockdown impacts your salary, if the lockdown impacts you visiting your family, like visiting your old folks, or if the lockdown does not allow you to socialize and that impacts your mental, so you need to ask yourself whether during this lockdown how I feel, okay, which is stress, is it valid? Because everyone's situation is slightly different. The person who gave this question, maybe you're going through a salary cut, or maybe someone in your family has lost their income because of the lockdown. I'm not sure. So you need to ask yourself whether or not how you're feeling, especially the stress that you're experiencing, is it valid? And if it's valid, what am I going to do? Which is your action. What am I going to do? What can I do about it? I hope that helps to answer the question.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question from Nasima. How can I reduce my stress when I'm on work from home?
It depends on
How?
how do you reduce your stress if you're working from home?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can empathize with that because I'm also working from home right now, and I have a 4-year-old daughter, and my husband is also working from home. So I am a lecturer, a mom, and a wife at the same time. So I can understand it can be very stressful, because imagine you need to juggle three things. As me as a woman, I need to juggle three things. I need to make sure because we are in lockdown, right? So I can't go out and buy food. I have to prepare food at home. I need to clean the house. I need to make sure my daughter is fed or showered, that kind of stuff. So how do you reduce? Um, If you could get help, that would be great, to support you. Another way to reduce your stress is really to have a me time at the end of that craziness. And I can imagine some days it's just very crazy for us to work at home, whether you're a man or woman, home, and having to play all these roles at the same time. At one point, your husband say he wants a meal, and the other side, your boss say wants to have a meeting. So you can just go in bonkers, like you can go crazy. So it's very important that by end of the day, treat yourself whether to a nice hot shower or maybe eat some ice cream if that makes you happy. And yeah, and another thing stress can come from is stop beating yourself up. Because we always feel that we need to be perfect. We need to be as a woman, you think that you need to be a perfect wife, you need to be the perfect mom. As men who is in the lockdown, you would think that you have responsibility of providing for the family, being the head of the household, and a lot of stuff. So all of us have different kind of stress and responsibility. But the most important thing is that you need to remind yourself that I did my best. And you need to remind yourself that I'm only human and I'll give my best to this family or to my workplace as much as I can. And if you can accept that you're already giving your best, then this kind of stress would be reduced because you are acknowledged that you already did your best. And don't punish yourself. So again, it comes back to reframing your mindset.
Ma'am, thanks a lot, ma'am. Very good answers, ma'am. One more question from participant side in chat box, ma'am. Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, please.
The question is from Pujida Verma. The Pujida's question is, when I get tensed, I get headache and hand shivering and not able to speak fluently. What can be done?
Okay. This is quite severe. It's actually very, very severe from my point of view. And I feel that it's already impacted your physical health. I strongly recommend let's say, if you can't go and see a doctor, then I'll recommend finding activities that needs to that can calm you down, whether it's a simple breathing exercise, clear your mind. If you are religious, whoever gave me this question, if you're religious, say some prayers and please relax. You need to find ways to find some form of relaxation because you have reached to quite a severe stage based on your description. If you're shaking and all this stuff. So you need to put more of me time. That means not 5 minutes a day. I think you need to spend a longer time to take care of yourself because it's affecting it sounded like it's already affecting your backbone because you're feeling stressed and you're feeling a lot of weight on your body. So try some simple activity or exercise. If it still does not help, then maybe ask a physician on how to reduce, or if there's any way to reduce your stress. I'm just concerned that it might be a physical health thing based on the description.
Ma'am, clear answer, ma'am. One more question, ma'am. It is from Ramarani.
Yeah.
The question from Ramarani is, how to avoid stress in anger?
How to
avoid stress in anger?
Again, you can't avoid stress. And to be very honest with you, you should not avoid anger because please remember that we are all humans and it's very normal for us to feel angry, disappointed, all those negative energy, same as happiness. So you can feel happy, joy, and excited, but you also need to it's part of life that we experience disappointment, despair, loss. It's part of life. We can't avoid it. So how do you avoid anger? Okay, another interesting thing about human behavior is that we see anger as something very negative. If you if you express anger, you are a bad person. In most societies, that oh, if you show anger, that means you're not mature. You are not a nice person. But to be honest, even young children, if you see the behavior of young children, if their toy is broken, they express anger or sadness. And that's okay. And then why is it not okay for adults to express anger? Why do we limit ourselves or punish ourselves? Anger is part of life, it's as part of expression. So I always tell people that if you're experiencing sadness or anger, let it out. As long as you're not hurting another individual or yourself, I think it's okay to let it out. It's better you let it out, because once you let it out, you are less you feel more relief. Please bear in mind the metaphor that uh, uh, a monk has shared with me, right? Emotion is like an angry bull. If the more you control an angry bull, the more it's going to fight you. So never control emotions too much. We can control so that, like, like when if your boss scold you, you feel sad, right? You try to control. Okay, understand, but don't control it too much, because please remember we are only humans, and it's okay to feel angry. Maybe find a quiet place, let out your anger, and trust me, letting it out is better than controlling it too much. Hope that answers. Do you need me to answer another question? Hello? Am I disconnected? Anyone here?
Ma'am, can I ask the question, ma'am?
Yes, please do.
The question is from Divya Joshi and Nalini Devi.
Yes.
Being a woman, how we balance both work, place as well as home?
Um, to be very, very honest, I'm also doing a study on that. There is no way to be 100% balanced. You have to define what is balance. It will never be 50-50 work and family. You have to decide on how your life routine or how you define as balance. Because like for most of us, I'm not sure the practice in your working culture, because all of us have slightly different working culture, even among Malaysians, is that for some people is okay, I work from 8 to 6, that is my work. After 6 o'clock is my family time. For some people, it does not work that way. Like for myself, I'm doing psychology research with different parties or researchers around the world. So sometimes I need to accommodate with their time difference to have a meeting. So in order to find balance, you have to tell me what is balance to you. And then if you can set that timing, if you can set that, I want to only spend time with my family at this time to this time, then stick by it. Because sometimes it's not the quantity that matters, it is the quality of time that you have. So spending more time does not mean that you have a very good quality, you're building a good quality relationship with that person. So if let's say, so the most important thing is how do you make the full um, good quality relationship with the other person.
Shivashakti, madam answered your question in the chat box. Have you seen it? Ma'am answered that
Yes,
Shivashakti
yes,
about 5 minutes or more, morning
yes,
or evening or before bed is fine. That is
yes.
ma'am's answer. Ma'am, really wonderful session, ma'am. Nice interaction session also. Excellent counseling you have given to us. Really, it's a need of the pandemic period, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Uh,
Thank you.
any other things you want to share with us, ma'am?
I wish I had longer time sometimes. No lah. I just feel that, there's a lot of little things that we can discuss more. But thank you for the opportunity and your questions and all the participants' questions. Thank you very much for having me here.
Really, thanks a lot, ma'am. We only have to thank you for your interaction sessions and nice counseling session also.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Can we proceed a vote of thanks, ma'am?
Thank you. Yes.
Ma'am, please say vote of thanks, ma'am.
I would like to say
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Just a second. Ma'am wants to tell
Yes.
something.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am, please, ma'am.
No, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share and to meet all of you here.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, you please proceed, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible, ma'am?
You're audible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all. It is my great honor and pleasure to deliver word of thanks. I, on behalf of PG and Research Department of Mathematics, Hindustan College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, would like to express my gratitude to our managing trustees, Srimati Saraswati Kannayan ma'am, Dr. Priya Satish Prabhu ma'am, Principal Dr. A. Ponusami sir, Convener Dr. S. Anuradha ma'am, for organizing this 5 days international webinar on current scenario work management and ICT tools in teaching learning process. I would like to express my sincere thanks to our today's chief guest, Dr. Pang ma'am, for her caring presentation on managing psychological emotions and stress in the workplace during crisis time. It is very useful and pampering presentation, ma'am. I thank you for the time and effort you took to share your experiences with us. I would like to thank all our respected participants for your active participation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot for giving us a nice counseling and spending a lot of time with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.